I need to tell you what happened at the Deep Space Communications Array in New Mexico. My name is Dr. David Pierce, and I was a radio astronomer for NASA. Notice, I said, was, after what I discovered 3 months ago, I can't go back. I can't look at the stars anymore. And after you read this, you might not want to either. It started on a Tuesday night in early December. I was alone on the graveyard shift, which was typical. The DSCA facility sits in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by desert and silence. We monitor deep space radio frequencies, listening to the cosmic background radiation, pulsar signals, and the general static of the universe. Most nights, it's just me, a thermos of coffee, and the steady hiss of infinity. That night, at exactly 11:47, my equipment picked up something unusual. It wasn't the typical burst of radiation from a distant quasar or the predictable pulse of a neutron star. This was different. The signal was coming from beyond the observable universe's edge, from a distance that shouldn't be possible. Our equipment can detect signals from about 13.8 billion light-years away, the age of the universe itself. This was coming from further, much further. I ran diagnostics 3 times, thinking it was an equipment malfunction. Everything checked out. The signal was real, and it was repeating every 41 seconds, like clockwork. I called Dr. Rebecca Hammond, my colleague, who lived about 20 minutes from the facility. She'd been with NASA for 15 years and had seen every kind of cosmic anomaly imaginable. "David, it's almost midnight," she said when she answered. "This better be good. I need you to come in. I've got something on the array that doesn't make sense." Doesn't make sense how? Like defying the laws of physics doesn't make sense. 40 minutes later, Rebecca was standing behind my chair, staring at the monitors with the same confused expression I'd been wearing for the past hour. "That can't be right," she muttered. "That distance reading. David, there's nothing out there. We're looking at a point beyond the observable universe." "I know. So it has to be equipment error. Or maybe signal reflection, something bouncing back from..." "I already checked. It's not a reflection. It's a source." We spent the next 3 hours analyzing the signal. Rebecca was thorough, methodical. She ran every test I'd already run and then some. Every time, the results were the same. Something out there, in the space that shouldn't exist, was transmitting. As dawn broke over the desert, Rebecca finally sat back in her chair and rubbed her eyes. "We need to bring this to Kowalski first thing tomorrow. This is way above our pay grade." "What do you think it is?" I asked. She was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. Maybe we're detecting something from beyond our universe's bubble. Maybe there's another universe out there, and somehow the membranes are thin enough to detect their signals." "That's incredibly optimistic." "You think it's something else?" I looked at the waveform on my screen, repeating its 41-second cycle over and over. "I think whatever it is, it's been out there a lot longer than we have. And now, we know it's there." Rebecca left at sunrise. I stayed for another hour, listening to the signal through my headphones. When you work with radio astronomy long enough, you learn to convert different frequencies into audible sound. It helps make sense of the universe's whispers. I converted the signal. What I heard made my blood run cold. It sounded like breathing, deep, slow, rhythmic breathing. Inhale for 20 seconds, exhale for 21. Over and over, something at the edge of everything was breathing. I didn't sleep well that day. I lived in a small apartment in Socorro, about an hour from the facility. Usually, after a night shift, I could black out my bedroom and sleep until mid-afternoon. But every time I closed my eyes, I heard that breathing, felt it even, like a vibration in my chest. When I returned to work that evening, Dr. Alan Kowalski, our facility director, was waiting in my workstation. He was a stern man in his 60s, built like he used to play football, with silver hair and a permanent, skeptical expression. "Dr. Hammond showed me your findings," he said, without preamble. "I've reviewed the data. And it's fascinating, but let's not jump to conclusions. Deep space signals can be deceptive. We've detected similar anomalies before, usually stellar wind patterns, pulsar glitches, things that seem impossible until we understand them better. This isn't stellar wind, Dr. Kowalski. The source, distance alone. I'm aware of the numbers, David. I'm just saying, let's be methodical. Continue monitoring. Document everything. But keep it quiet for now. The last thing we need is panic over what might be a calibration error." He left, and I felt a familiar frustration. Kowalski was a brilliant scientist, but he was also a bureaucrat. He didn't want problems. He wanted neat, explainable phenomena. But some things can't be explained neatly. I monitored the signal for 7 more nights straight. Rebecca joined me when she could, but she had other projects. Most of the time, it was just me and the breathing, because that's what I'd started calling it, the breathing. On the 5th night, I noticed something that made my hands shake as I typed my notes into the computer. The breathing was getting faster, not by much, only fractions of a second. But it was measurable. 41 seconds between cycles had become 40.8 seconds. It was accelerating. I did the math obsessively. At the current rate of acceleration, the breathing would reach normal human respiratory rate, about 12 to 20 breaths per minute, in approximately 30 days. Something was waking up. I tried to tell Rebecca. She listened patiently while I explained my calculations, showed her the graphs, demonstrated the increasing frequency. "David," she said gently, "you look terrible. When's the last time you really slept?" "That's not the point. Look at the data." "I see the data. You're right that there's a slight acceleration, but you're making a huge leap from the signal is changing to something is waking up. You're anthropomorphizing cosmic phenomena." "What if I'm not?" She put her hand on my shoulder. "Take a few days off. Get some real sleep. When you come back, we'll look at this with fresh eyes." But I couldn't take days off. Every time I left the facility, I felt like I was abandoning a post, like someone needed to be watching. The nightmares started on the 8th night. I dreamed I was floating in absolute darkness. Not the darkness of a room at night, but the complete absence of light. And in that darkness, something vast was breathing. I could feel each breath, like a current, pulling me towards something I couldn't see, something I didn't want to see. I woke up in my apartment, gasping, my sheets soaked with sweat. It was 3:30 in the afternoon, sunlight streaming through my windows. But for just a moment, Less than a second, I could have sworn my bedroom was completely dark. I started seeing things in my peripheral vision, shadows that moved wrong, dark spots that drifted across my field of vision like floaters, except they weren't in my eyes. They were in the room. I told myself it was exhaustion, lack of sleep, too much coffee, not enough food, all the rational explanations that made sense. But then other observatories started detecting the signal. It happened on the 13th day. Rebecca burst into the monitoring room at 2 a.m., her tablet in hand. "The Arecibo Successor telescope in Puerto Rico picked up your signal," she said, breathless. "So did the Square Kilometre Array in South Africa. David, it's showing up on every deep space array on Earth." "That's impossible. The signal's directional. It should only be detectable from our specific angle of observation." "I know, but it's not. Every telescope pointed at deep space is picking it up. It's like..." She struggled for words. "It's like the signal isn't coming from a specific point anymore. It's coming from everywhere at once." NASA convened an emergency meeting 3 days later. I was called to present my findings to a room full of senior scientists, administrators, and even a few people in suits who wouldn't identify themselves, but who I assumed were from some government intelligence agency. I showed them everything. The initial detection, the breathing sound, the acceleration rate, the global spread of the signal. Dr. Kowalski presented it as an unexplained phenomenon worthy of study. Others theorized about quantum entanglement, about signals from parallel universes bleeding through, about exotic physics we didn't yet understand. Then I made my mistake. I told them what I really thought. "I don't think this is a signal in the traditional sense," I said. "I think we've detected something alive, something that exists in the space between universes, or beyond our universe's edge. And I think by observing it, by listening to it, we've drawn its attention." The room went silent. One of the suits leaned forward. "Dr. Pierce, are you suggesting we've made contact with an extraterrestrial intelligence?" "No," I said. "I'm suggesting we've made contact with something that was here before the word extraterrestrial had any meaning. Something that's been sleeping in the void, and now it's waking up." The meeting ended shortly after that. As people filed out, I heard whispers, saw the concerned glances. Rebecca wouldn't make eye contact with me. Dr. Kowalski pulled me aside in the hallway. "David, I'm putting you on mandatory leave." "What?" "Why?" "Because you just stood in front of NASA's senior leadership and claimed we've woken up some kind of cosmic entity. You're clearly suffering from exhaustion. Take 2 weeks. Rest. When you come back, we'll reassess." "Dr. Kowalski, please just listen to the signal yourself. Really listen to it. You'll understand. 2 weeks, David. That's not a request." I didn't rest. Instead, I spent my forced leave digging through NASA's historical archives. If something like this had been detected before, there would be records, buried maybe. But there, it took me 5 days of searching through digitized documents from the 1970s and 80s before I found it. A classified report from 1977 marked Project Silent Star. The project had been shut down abruptly, all findings sealed, all personnel reassigned or retired early. The lead scientist was Dr. Thomas Rivers. It took another 2 days to track him down. He wasn't dead, but he might as well have been. Dr. Rivers, now 80 years old, was a resident at the Sunset Hills Psychiatric Care Facility in Maryland. I flew out the next day. The facility was nicer than I'd expected, clean, well lit, with gardens and therapy rooms. Dr. Rivers had his own room overlooking a small pond. When I arrived, he was sitting by the window, staring out at the water. He was a small man, thin and frail, with wispy white hair and trembling hands, but his eyes were sharp when he turned to look at me. "You've heard it," he said before I could even introduce myself. "The breathing." I sat down slowly in the chair across from him. "How did you know?" "Because I heard it too, 48 years ago, and I've been hearing it ever since, even though we destroyed all our equipment." He tapped his temple. "It doesn't need equipment anymore. Once you've listened, really listened, it can find you." "What is it?" Dr. Rivers smiled, but there was no humor in it. "We never found out. Not really. We detected it coming from the edge of the observable universe, just like you did. We listened for 3 months. The breathing got faster, just like yours is doing. And then what? It started speaking." My skin went cold. "Speaking? You mean it transmitted language?" "Not language, not words. It was understanding. Direct transfer of meaning into our minds. We didn't hear sounds that we interpreted. We just suddenly knew things, understood things we didn't want to understand." "What did it tell you?" Dr. Rivers was quiet for a long time, staring back out at the pond. When he spoke again, his voice was barely a whisper. "It told us what it was, what it had been doing in the space beyond space. It told us that our universe, everything we know, everything that exists, is drifting, moving through a void that's older than time. And in that void, things sleep. Things that were here before our universe began expanding, before the Big Bang, before. That's not possible." That's what we said. But then it showed us, not with images, not with words. It just made us see, made us understand that our universe is like a bubble in an ocean, and there are things in that ocean that are so vast, so incomprehensibly large, that our entire universe is just an obstacle in their way, a minor irritation to something stretching in its sleep. I felt like I couldn't breathe. "What happened to the rest of your team?" 3 committed suicide within a year. 2 more died in accidents that probably weren't accidents. The rest of us, well, I'm the only one left, and I've been here for 23 years. They keep me medicated enough that I can sleep without seeing it, without feeling it breathing behind the darkness when I close my eyes. "Dr. Rivers, I need to know. Can it be stopped? Is there any way to—" "Stopped." He laughed, a broken sound. "Young man, you can't stop something like that. You can't fight it, can't negotiate with it, can't hide from it. It doesn't want anything from us. We're not important enough for once. We're just in the way of it stretching." He turned back to the window. "I shut down our equipment, destroyed the recordings, buried everything I could. I thought if we stopped listening, if we stopped paying attention, maybe it would ignore us. Maybe it would go back to sleep and drift past our universe without noticing we were here. But it didn't work. No, because 48 years later, someone started listening again. Someone pointed their equipment at the edge of everything and heard it breathing. And now it knows we're here. Really knows. It's probably known since 1977. But now it's confirmed. There's something here, something conscious enough to observe it. And anything conscious enough to observe is conscious enough to be consumed. I left the facility an hour later, my hands shaking too badly to drive. I sat in my rental car in the parking lot and tried to process what I'd learned. My phone rang. It was Rebecca. "David, where are you?" "Maryland. I'm following up on something." "You need to come back. Now." The signals changed. My heart dropped. Changed how? The breathing stopped. 3 hours ago, it just stopped. Every array on Earth is picking up nothing but silence. Complete radio silence from that direction. That's not good, Rebecca. That's really not good. What do you mean? I thought you'd be relieved. When you're being hunted, silence isn't safety. It means the predator is holding its breath, listening for you. I didn't go back to New Mexico. Instead, I flew back to my apartment in Socorro and locked myself inside. I knew how it sounded. I knew I was acting like a paranoid madman. But everything Dr. Rivers had told me, everything I'd experienced, pointed to one terrifying conclusion. We'd woken something up. And now, it was aware of us. The silence lasted for 3 days. During those 3 days, I noticed changes in my apartment. Small things at first. The temperature dropped, even though my heater was running constantly. I could see my breath sometimes, particularly at night. The frost patterns on my windows looked wrong. Not like ice crystals, but like something had pressed against the glass from the inside. My reflection in the bathroom mirror started to lag, just by fractions of a second, but enough to notice. I'd move my hand, and my reflection would follow a heartbeat later, and I felt watched, constantly. The weight of observation pressing down on me from somewhere I couldn't identify. On the 4th day, the signal came back, but it wasn't breathing anymore. Rebecca called me at 6 o'clock in the evening, her voice shaking. "David, you need to hear this. The signal's back, but it's different. I don't know how to describe it. It's like language, but not any language that exists. But somehow, everyone who hears it understands it perfectly. What does it say?" "David, it's terrifying. Every scientist who's listened to it has had the same reaction. Some are crying, some are just frozen. You need to hear it yourself." "Tell me what it says, Rebecca." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "It says, I have been sleeping in the space where nothing exists. You have disturbed the membrane between my dream and your reality. I'm remembering how to be awake." I dropped my phone. The temperature in my apartment plummeted. I could see thick clouds of my breath now, even though moments ago the room had been warm. The lights flickered but didn't go out. When I picked up my phone, Rebecca was still there. David, are you okay?" "Rebecca, listen to me very carefully. Tell everyone at NASA to destroy the receivers. Shut down every deep space array. Stop listening to it." "We can't just shut down." "Yes, you can. Tell them it's not a signal. It's a connection. Every time we listen, we're creating a link between it and us. We're letting it perceive us. And by perceiving us, it can reach through to us." "David, You're not making sense. We can't just ignore the greatest discovery in human history because you're having some kind of breakdown. It's not a discovery, I shouted. We haven't discovered something, Rebecca. We've been noticed. There's a difference. She hung up. I stood in my freezing apartment, watching my breath form clouds in the air, and understood with perfect clarity that I was completely alone in this realization. No one would believe me until it was too late. Maybe it was already too late. The news broke 2 days later. Astronomers around the world confirmed that stars at the edge of the observable universe were disappearing, not going dark, not exploding, simply ceasing to exist. One moment they were there in our telescopes, the next they were gone, and the space where they'd been was empty, not black, not dark, just nothing. The talking heads on TV called it unprecedented. Astrophysicists scrambled to explain it. Theories ranged from quantum fluctuations to cosmic censorship to simulation hypothesis glitches. I knew better. Something was eating reality itself, consuming the universe from the outside in. And now that it was fully awake, now that it knew we were here, it was coming. My apartment became uninhabitable. The darkness there was wrong. During the day, sunlight would stream through my windows, but it wouldn't penetrate more than a few feet into the room. Shadows pooled in corners with a thickness that felt almost liquid. At night, I couldn't turn on any lights. The electricity worked. The outlets were live. The breakers were fine. But bulbs simply wouldn't illuminate. I'd flip a switch and feel the click, but no light would come. I started sleeping with every window open, letting in the desert night air and moonlight. It was the only way to have any light at all. The breathing returned, but not through any equipment. I heard it directly now, a constant low rhythm that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Sometimes it synced with my own heartbeat. Sometimes it countered it, and I'd feel my chest tighten as if my body was trying to match the cosmic rhythm and failing. I found messages in my apartment, not written ones. I never saw anyone write them. But when I'd shower, I'd emerge to find condensation on my bathroom mirror. And in that condensation would be drawings, crude circles that might be Earth, lines that might be trajectories, and something surrounding it all, something that looked like a mouth or a void, or both. I stopped showering after I saw one particular drawing. It showed dozens of circles, planets, worlds, stars maybe, leading into something vast and dark, a trail of consumed realities. We weren't the first. We weren't even close to the first. 3 weeks after my leave began, I returned to the facility. I didn't ask permission. I used my old access card, which somehow still worked, and drove out to the DSCA in the middle of the night. The building was nearly empty, a skeleton crew monitoring equipment. I bypassed them and went straight to my old workstation. The breathing filled my headphones immediately. Faster now, much faster, nearly one breath every 5 seconds, almost human rate. I pulled up the latest observations and felt my stomach drop. The edge of the observable universe, the point where the most distant light reached us, had shrunk by 0.003%. A tiny fraction, but measurable, confirmed by every observatory on Earth. The universe wasn't expanding into nothing anymore. Something was eating it faster than it could grow. I ran calculations, projecting the rate of consumption against the size of the universe. At current rates, it would take tens of thousands of years to reach our galaxy. But I knew the rate wouldn't stay current. It was accelerating. Everything about this phenomenon was accelerating. I pulled up the signal analysis and converted the latest transmission to audio. What I heard made me tear off my headphones and back away from the workstation. It wasn't breathing anymore. It was something else. A sound like water draining, like air being sucked through a vast opening, like the sound of swallowing magnified 1 billion times. It was feeding. I accessed the last message the signal had transmitted. The scientists had decoded it, translated it, tried to understand it, but they'd gotten it wrong. They'd interpreted it as curiosity, as acknowledgement, as first contact with something alien but ultimately understandable. I understood now what it really meant. I have been here since before your light began. I will be here when your light ends. You are the dream. I am the dreamer waking. We weren't communicating with something in our universe. We were inside something, had always been inside something. And now that something was waking up from a sleep that had lasted longer than the age of reality itself, our universe wasn't expanding through empty space. It was expanding through something's body, something's dream, something's sleeping mind. And our existence was just a brief thought in an eternal consciousness that was now remembering. It was awake. I left the facility and never went back. That was 3 months ago. I'm writing this from a motel room in Arizona. I move every few days now. It doesn't help, but it feels like I should be moving. Like staying still makes me too easy to find. The breathing is constant now. Everyone can hear it if they listen to any kind of static, TV snow, radio hiss, white noise. The signal has spread through every frequency. It's in our cell phones, our computers, our power grids. It's everywhere because it was always everywhere. We just didn't know how to hear it before. Stars disappear every day now, hundreds of them. The night sky is noticeably darker than it was 3 months ago. NASA says we'll lose about 2% of visible stars by the end of the year. They're lying. I've done the math. We'll lose much more than that. People are starting to panic. Religious groups claim it's the end times. Scientists hold emergency conferences and propose desperate solutions. Faster than light travel to escape. Messages of peace broadcast into space. Even attempts to wake up our own universe by triggering controlled big bangs in laboratory conditions. None of it will work. You can't escape from inside. You can't negotiate with something that doesn't think of you as alive. You're just neurons firing in its dream, and now it's waking up. I know how this sounds. I know I sound insane. Maybe I am. Maybe Dr. Rivers was right, and the only people who truly understand what's happening are the ones mad enough to see it clearly. But I'm not writing this to convince you. I'm writing this because someone needs to document what happened, how it started, how we went from thinking we'd discovered something amazing to realizing we'd been discovered by something terrible. The worst part is knowing that it doesn't hate us. It doesn't fear us. It doesn't even really acknowledge us as separate beings. We're just part of the universe it's consuming, and the universe is just an obstruction in its way as it stretches, wakes, and reaches for whatever lies beyond. I don't sleep anymore. When I close my eyes, my bedroom is absolutely dark, no matter how many lights I leave on. And in that darkness, I feel it, not as a presence, but as an absence, a void so complete that existence itself bends toward it. Last night, I woke up, or thought I woke up, to find myself floating in absolute nothing. No light, no sound, no sense of up or down, just the breathing surrounding me, resonating through my bones. And then I saw it, or rather, I perceived it, because you can't really see something that exists in dimensions your eyes weren't built to process. It was hunger given form, not a creature, not an entity, not even a force, just hunger, pure, ancient, inevitable hunger. It had been sleeping in the space between universes since before time had meaning, drifting through the void, dreaming dreams that spawned realities. And now it was awake. It spoke to me, not in words, not in thoughts, but in direct understanding implanted in my mind. You are the dream. I am the dreamer waking. Then I was back in my motel room, screaming, the first light of dawn breaking through my window. It's been getting closer. I can feel it. The timeline the scientists give, 50 to 70 years before it reaches our galaxy, is wrong. I know, because I can feel it moving faster. The breathing in the static is evolving into something else, something that sounds less like respiration and more like anticipation. My reflection is wrong now. It doesn't just lag. Sometimes it moves when I don't. Sometimes I catch it looking at me with an expression I didn't make. The darkness in rooms is absolute now, even at noon. I keep my curtains open constantly, letting in as much natural light as possible. But I know it won't matter soon. The darkness isn't an absence of light. It's a presence. It's the thing at the edge of everything pressing closer, filtering through the gaps in reality wherever it's been observed. And we observed it. We listened to it. We created a connection. I've stopped trying to warn people. What would I tell them? That the universe is being eaten? They already know. That we're all going to die. They're starting to suspect that it's our fault for listening. They wouldn't believe me. Besides, I don't think it matters anymore. Whether we'd listened or not, whether we'd observed it or ignored it, it was always coming, always waking, always hungry. We just had the misfortune of being here when it opened its eyes. I'm finishing this account in the motel room. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Every light in the room is on, but it's still dark. Not completely dark. I can still see my hands, see the keyboard, but there are pools of shadow that don't move when I shine light at them. The breathing has stopped again. I know what that means now. It's here. Not in the room, not in the motel, not even on Earth yet, but close. Close enough that it doesn't need to breathe anymore. Close enough that it's holding still, focusing, preparing. I can feel something vast and ancient turning its full attention toward our planet, toward our solar system, toward our galaxy. NASA will probably announce new findings tomorrow. More stars disappearing. The edge of the universe shrinking faster. Maybe they'll finally admit that whatever's happening isn't natural, isn't explainable, isn't survivable. Or maybe they'll keep lying, keep pretending we have time, keep pretending there's hope. There isn't. I've written everything I can. I've documented the discovery, the signal, the breathing, the message. I've told you about Dr. Rivers, about the 1977 project, about how we've awakened something that was better left sleeping. None of it will matter in the end. But maybe someone should know. Maybe someone should understand that when humanity dies, when Earth is consumed, when our solar system vanishes, when our galaxy becomes nothing, it won't be because we did something wrong. It won't be because we deserved it. It'll be because we had the cosmic misfortune of existing in a universe that was dreamed by something ancient and terrible, and now that thing is waking up. The breathing has started again. But this time, it's not coming from the static, not coming from speakers or headphones or equipment. It's coming from behind my reflection in the dark television screen across from me. And this time, I can see something in that darkness, not details, not a shape, just the suggestion of something so vast that my mind can't process its edges, something that's been there all along, wrapped around our universe like a hand around a marble. And now that hand is beginning to squeeze. I'm going to post this, and then I'm going to do what Dr. Rivers couldn't. I'm going to keep watching, keep documenting, keep bearing witness even as reality itself begins to unravel. Because someone should be watching when the end comes. Someone should be aware. Someone should know that in our final moments, we weren't alone. We were inside something. We'd always been inside something. And now it's waking up. The darkness in my room just moved. I can feel breath on the back of my neck, but there's no one behind me. It's here. God help us all. It's here.